Pixar is back at it again with a new film called Elemental, now available to check out in theaters. Their last film, Lightyear, wasn't a really big hit, so how did this film fare and what did I think about it? Well, stick around and let's discuss it. Elemental follows Ember and Wade in a city where fire, water, land, and air residents live together. The film stars Leah Lewis, Mamoudou Athie, Ronnie del Carmen, Shila Ommi, and Catherine O'Hara, and many more, and was directed by Sohn, and he's only done one other film, and that was The Good Dinosaur. Elemental, I didn't watch any reviews going into this film. I only watched the trailer probably once or twice maybe. I didn't see the trailer really advertised that much, which was really surprising going into this film. I actually don't really know any of the actors or actresses in this film, so I thought that that's pretty unique that we get some actual fresh faces, fresh voice actors to actually portray this story. And this story, what I really did like about it, first of all, I saw this film in 3D, in which there was not a lot of people there, which was not really good because this film actually is bombing right now. Apparently it is the lowest gross opening ever for a weekend for a Pixar film, which is absolutely mind-blowing that actually happened. I was actually very shocked. So watching this film in 3D, I actually can say that I actually thought that this was actually worth it to watch in 3D for just the world building alone. The buildings, the colors, they all look really sharp in 3D. I love actually how the designs of all the characters are. I like how we have fire, water, air, earth trees. Our two main characters, I could relate to both of them. Ember, she is a fire element, and she can get really mad when customers actually tick her off because her family actually owns this convenience store that is made specifically for different fire elements, and they come in and they shop and they buy different things. And so she can get really ticked off and have little tantrums and really blow up, and I could definitely actually relate to that, as I can get really mad sometimes myself, so I definitely related to her character. Also, we have Wade here. He is the water element, and he can get very emotional, and I can also relate to that as well, as I can be a very emotional person as well. So I think both elements here and both main characters, I definitely could relate to them. They have a really good bond together, and they really grow that bond together. The music choice here, there is one song called Steal the Show, which is a very catchy tune, and I like that they actually played that throughout because it really shows their growth and their love bonding throughout the story. This story, it's a little bit all over the place, and I say that because the film starts off with both mother and father. They're immigrants, and they immigrate into this element city, or as they end up calling Firetown. And so they start up this new business. They have this kind of piece of crap building that they fix up, and they end up owning this shop. And in turn, our fire element, Ember, she is trying to take over this store and run it, and her father needs to be able to trust her. But every time he tries to give her the keys to the store and actually take over this store, she blows up, and in turn, he really can't trust her. So she has this meltdown where all the customers are annoying her, and she goes down in the basement, and she completely blows up, and she floods the basement. And that is when Wade actually comes in, and he apparently is an inspector. He finds all these problems with it, and so she needs to go back to the city and tell them, don't tear down this building. And that is another centralized part of the story. A third centralized part of the story is the fact that there is this prejudice towards the fact that fire elements and water elements can't mix. And a fourth element that is thrown in here is the fact that they're really growing this bond together and this love story. And then also Ember, she really in turn doesn't really want to take over this store. She wants to be her own person. She's trying to grow as a person, and she wants to do what she wants to do, but she doesn't want to disappoint her father. And I think it's a very relatable story in that aspect, because it really made me think as me as a father, because for my son, I really like sports, for instance, and I would really love my son to play sports. And for a short while, he's played sports, but it really wasn't his thing. And I've realized as a father and growing older that that's not really that important. I should really be happy and support what he wants to do. And that really related to this film, because the father here, he really wants his daughter to really take over this store, but she really doesn't want to do that. She's still growing up. She's still trying to find her way, and she has other skills that she wants to utilize. When when Ember actually has this temper tantrum and she ends up blowing up certain pipes in the bottom of the basement, which bursts, and Wade actually comes in and actually puts all these citations in, and so she has to stop him from actually shutting down her business. This really shows a bigger problem because we tried to figure out why Wade has actually gotten to this place, and we find out in certain aspects that the city is not being run properly, different things in the foundation of the city, which made me think a little bit deeper of a lot of the cities that we have in America. How many times when you're driving, there is a pothole, something jagged with the freaking road, something going on with the road. I see it all the time. I complain about it all the time. Where's the freaking money going? Why aren't they repairing roads? I definitely see that. Maybe I'm thinking a little bit too deep in this film, but that really made me think of certain things that I see every day is wrong with our infrastructure in the world. And I don't know if the director here is trying to actually show that in this film, but I definitely felt that way. The story definitely has a lot of different ideas, and I feel like a lot of the actual central message definitely portrays to certain things going on in the world, but I also think that this has a mixture of adult elements, mainly towards the interracial portion and also the love portion that it's trying to actually show. But I think also with kids, and I think also with this town that it's trying to show, I think it is trying to show a story of a family that's just trying to make it in this world and their world in particular. And I think also with this story, it seems like it really wants to really throw a lot of different things at the audience here. And I think with a lot of things that it does actually present, I think it accomplishes certain things. But I think the story here, it's just lacking a little bit. I definitely felt through the runtime, like halfway through, I felt a little bored. And I think that was more so because we had a few different things that they introduced in the film. And I felt like those things they introduced, it was fine that they actually included those. But I just felt like a lot of the story, it didn't have a ton of meat to it. It felt kind of, I don't want to say bland, but it didn't really feel like a really magical Pixar story. I felt like there were certain things that you can take out of it and go, yeah, there's this problem going on, and there's this and this and that. But it just doesn't seem like a film that I would say is like a memorable film, like a Toy Story. It definitely feels like a good dinosaur film. It feels like it has some really family-oriented elements that it's trying to present, which I think it actually accomplishes. This love story, this whole growing up story, and the fact that there are other elements that really tie into that really need support, especially like a growing teenager like Ember here. She really wants to do her own thing. And I think those kinds of elements, they're relatable. And I think that you can look at this and you go, why, I see this in this film and I see that in this film. But overall, I don't see a story that's very memorable, a story that you can think that's a very magical story. And I would give a score of this film a 3 out of 5. I think it's a solid enough film, but I still think it's on the lower end for Pixar. I don't really necessarily think it's a really boring story. There are points in here where there are some boring parts, but I don't think it's one of Pixar's strongest stories, and that's why I would give it a 3 out of 5. But let me know in the comments what you guys think about this film. Have you checked it out? If you have not checked it out, are you going to check it out in the theater, wait on VOD? Are you just going to completely skip it all together? Let me know in the comments. Thank you guys for watching, and I will see you guys on my next review.